Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. This show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am thrilled to be jumping on the mic with you all. I suppose when you guys are listening to today's episode is going to be November, so happy November. I am just about to fall into Halloween weekend, so I'm wearing a super cute Halloween themed shirt that says, "Today my blood type is pumpkin spice," which honestly, I was wearing this shirt today and I realized I don't even know if I like pumpkin spice. I don't know if I've ever actually tried anything that is pumpkin spice. So that is on my to-do before the end of the weekend and before we kind of move out of this holiday, Halloween, pumpkin spice vibe time. But I would definitely love to know, are you a pumpkin spice person? Is it just something that's glorified in our media? Is it actually as good as everybody says it is? I'm super, super curious. I have so many questions, but nonetheless, happy November. I'm so excited to be jumping on the mic with you guys for episode number 70. We hit number 70. I just want to take a minute and celebrate because that is such a big milestone, such a big accomplishment. We're on our way to 100 episodes, and I am just so excited and eager as always to just dive into today's content. But as always with anything in life, it's about recognizing where we're at, having the future at hand, but never forgetting or taking the present moment for granted. So happy November, happy number 70. And for today's an episode and I've kind of been trying to switch up my content. So I want to share some on mental health, some on self-love, some on learnings that I've found, some on learnings from books, some strategy-based ones, some are 5 ways how to blank. And for today's episode is really one that I've never really done before in this regard. And so today's is going to be about how to ask someone if they're okay, but more so not in the realm of deep mental health, but really in any time in our life when we feel like someone has withdrawn or we feel like someone has taken a step back. And so the reason that this came up for me is because we can really easily jump to conclusions on why somebody isn't answering us, isn't getting back to us, maybe isn't doing the same things that they used to, aren't showing up in the same way that they used to. And our mind can really start to go to the worst case scenario. And we often think it's something personal. We think it's something that we did wrong, and we begin to make rash assumptions, and we start to gossip about it, and we get just so riled up about a scenario when we actually don't have any evidence or any backstory of the situation, and most times when we do this. And so I wanted to share a little bit of a personal touch on this because for me, when I began my personal development story and my journey, and I was just starting to realize that so many things in my life were not in alignment, it was honestly easier for me. And honestly, looking back, it was probably a trauma response to just flee from so many situations that I knew were causing me distress, causing me sadness, causing me frustration, causing me unhappiness, causing me to be not fully fulfilled and not feeling myself and just weren't aligned anymore. And I'm someone who struggles big time with confrontation. And I have an episode coming out soon about ways that we can begin to improve dealing with confrontation so it doesn't have to be that word. We think that having those hard conversations is going to lead to an issue when oftentimes it doesn't. It's just our mind telling us that. But so when I began my journey and I kind of just pulled away, I noticed that no one around me really checked in. And instead I was just hearing that I had ditched friend groups. I was doing better things. I was too good for them. I was, surrounding myself with other people. And it was just very, very negative. But in retrospect, what was going on the other side is that I was hanging out by myself, trying to better my best, trying to grow a business, trying to master my craft, trying to evolve and elevate. And there's always two sides to every story, because from my side, yes, I should have communicated better. And this is just one example that I want to share. But I should have communicated better. But also on the other hand, imagine if those people would have reached out differently instead of just saying, we're cutting you off because you haven't shown up to a party in 3 weeks. You haven't gone out with coffee for us in 2 months. So you're not a very good friend, and just putting me on the chopping block. And so for a long time, they just thought that I was mad at them and that I was being selfish. And in reality, that couldn't have been further from the truth. And last week I was making a reel on Instagram and I came across this audio, and it said, when they said I changed, I was evolving. When they said I was isolating, I was healing. When they said I didn't care anymore, I found my peace within. And I honestly don't think any words have aligned more in my life than that exact statement. And I think the reason for that is because we never truly know what someone's going through or how they're feeling or what's going on in their life. And typically we think it's about us when 99.9% of the time it has nothing to do with us. And in fact, most of the time the issues are things that are coming from within. It's our own inner problems and struggles and just things that we deal with as humans. And I just think that if we can give each other that grace to not judge each other so quickly and to take things so personally so quickly, especially if it's things that are out of our control, because we start to carry the weight of other people when it's not even A, a problem, but B, necessary weight for us to carry. And so I wanted to share this episode because I recognize that we are very, very quick to judge each other. We're very quick to dismiss people out of our life when they've quote unquote changed, right? And sometimes change for them is a good thing, but makes you uncomfortable. So as an example, let's say you're a group of friends and you're used to going out and partying every weekend. All of a sudden, one of those people in the groups has decided, I don't really want to drink anymore. This isn't really in alignment. I'd rather stay home on the weekends and watch movies or work on my business or read a book or take a bath or whatever. They just don't want to go out anymore. And so one friend is feeling like that's what's best for their life. And then this group of friends is almost feeling attacked and taking it personally because they feel like that person just doesn't want to be around them anymore. But in reality, it's just that doing that certain thing isn't in alignment. And so that's when it comes down to having these conversations and being honest. But I think we often think the worst case, and we think it's going to lead to a conflict, lead to drama, lead to an issue. And so what we do instead is we avoid the tough conversations, we avoid the tough truths, and we make up a scenario in our head. And that scenario in our head is often negative, it is harsh, it is out of proportion, it is inaccurate. When if we really just got to the truth, our mind wouldn't have to make up a story because we would just know the truth. And so I wanted to dive into a couple ways that you can support someone if you feel like they've been off, they've been different, they've been just not really themselves. But I don't necessarily mean in a negative way, because when I withdrew, it's not that I was in a negative space or that I was hurting or that, I was isolating myself. But instead that I needed to take some time for myself. I needed to withdraw a bit. I needed to change the things I was doing. I needed to change the people I was hanging around with because they weren't lifting me up anymore. And so I want to do a deeper episode at a later time of how to support someone if you feel, they might be dealing with severe depression or they might be dealing with severe mental illness issues. That's a whole other subject that I want to dive deeper in because there would definitely be a more trauma-informed perspective to that. But for today, I just want to give you guys a couple of things that you can do if you feel like that one person in your life or those people in your life, you just feel like something's off and you don't really know what to do or how to approach it. And so the first thing that I'm going to encourage you guys to do is something that I already mentioned. And that's to not make assumptions. Stop making assumptions about what the situation might be. Because when we do that, we're telling our mind a story and making ourselves believe that it's true and not actually giving that person a chance or the opportunity to say what their actual truth is. So we're speaking on a situation we know nothing about and making an assumption about it. And often when we make that assumption, it's to make ourselves feel better, but it often makes that person on the other end likely look bad or worse or like they're the victim. And so if we can begin to catch ourselves when we're making assumptions and say, do I actually have evidence to back up this thought? Do I actually have real, concrete truth that what I'm telling myself is what's actually happening? Or is it possible that something else might be happening? And if it has come down to that you're making up a story and that you haven't been conversating with this person, I encourage you to ask yourself, has this person ever given me reason to believe that in the first place? And if not, do I owe it to them to go to them to get their truth from their perspective? So that is just the first thing to bring awareness to. If somebody you feel has withdrawn or is, kind of stepped away, don't make assumptions on why they're doing so. Get to the root cause of it. Get to the truth. And that is where we're going to go next with my next points. So if you've noticed somebody has been withdrawing and you feel, the pull, you feel called to reach out, you just feel like something's wrong. You just want to check in, you miss your girl, you miss your guy friend, like, you just miss them. You just want to check in. You feel pulled to do so. After you haven't made the assumption, you're going in with a clean slate and you want to reach out, just make sure that it's at the right time and at the right setting. Because we don't want to bring up these conversations at a time that either party is going to feel triggered. If this is something that is hard to do and is a legitimate conversation to be had, you need to make sure that both people involved feel safe to do so and that it's the right time. So quickly jumping on your phone and texting and saying something belittling or rude or mean, that person's likely just going to push you away further. But if you sent a message like, hey, you've been on my mind, I'm wondering if you would have any time this week for us to have a quick talk. Sending you all the love. Because when we just say, we need to talk, what happens? We start to freak out. We start to catastrophize. And let's say that person on the other end is having a really hard time. And you are to say that, it almost causes you to feel guilty for taking time for yourself. Because I know I felt that a lot because I had a hard time saying no to going to things when I was invited because I just felt this pressure that if I say no, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, basically, was where my head would always go. And so just make sure that to have those conversations, you're doing them with the right intention, at the right time, at the right place, and that you ask them if they're open to receiving that. Are you okay with me checking in right now? Where are you at right now on a scale of 0 to 10? And if they answer anything from a 5 below, it might honestly not be the best time. And instead you could just say, how can I best support you right now? Which leads me to my third point, is exactly that question. If you notice that someone's withdrawn and you don't really want to have a conversation, but you want to just, say something, asking how you can support them is one of the best questions that we can ask because it takes the pressure off. It shows that you care. It's not attacking, it's not negative, and you're empowering them to share from their perspective what might be helpful. Because we like to quickly, go in and fix someone's problems and try to take it all away and make them feel better. And that is one of the beautiful things about us as human beings. But also, sometimes if we're sitting in discomfort or we're going through something, it's in going through that discomfort and through that pain and through that transition that we learn, that we heal, that we grow, that we adapt, that we shift, that we pivot. And if we don't have the time and the permission to sit in that, and someone just tries to take that away, even though it's with all the good intentions, we'll likely end up back in that same spot. And so simply asking that question, how can I best support you, is one of my favorite questions to ask. If I can tell I can just tell they're off. I can just tell they're maybe irritated, maybe sad, maybe overwhelmed, overworked, burning out, whatever. How can I support you right now? Because they could say, hey, I need you to leave and get out of my face. Perfect. That's what you need right now. I really need a hug right now. Awesome. It would be really helpful if you could help me, get this one task done. It's really stressing me out. Great. But if you just say, hey, do you want me to give you a hug and tell you it's okay and do all these things for you? It's maybe none of that is what they want at all. So empowering yourself and other people to ask that question more often, I think would just make our world a better place, but also allows check-ins to be more safe and less pressure. Because by just saying, how can I support you? There's no obligation to really say anything. If you can't think of anything, that's okay. You don't have to. You can say, I'm not really sure right now. And often you'll get more truths through that. I remember working one-on-one with clients and I could just tell they were distressed, tell they were overwhelmed. And I would just pause and say, hey, I'm noticing, you're breathing a little deeper. I'm noticing you sat back a little farther in your chair. I'm wondering how I can support you right now. And that, even just that question can be a little bit overwhelming for some people, but it allows them to ask and get in their body and say, maybe no one's ever given them the permission to say what they want before. Maybe someone's always just tried to fix their problems or told them that they're not allowed to feel their emotions or feel their problems. And so always gauge how somebody responds to that question, but it's the safest way to approach something. Or even taking one step back, asking that question, where are you at on a scale of 0 to 10? That will give you an indicator of where they are and then give you that permission to take that one step further to say, okay, how can I best support you right now? And that could be through phone, that could be through text, that could be in person. If you're not hearing from this person, you could even just text them and say, I'm wondering how I can best support you right now. Intuitively, I've noticed something is off. I just want you to know I care. Which leads me into my next point, which is to remind them how much you care about them. Because if you're wanting to have these conversations in the first place and you're noticing that they've withdrawn or you notice that they're different and you want to change that, it's likely because you care. And so imagine if at that time when I was transitioning, those friends messaged me and instead just made assumptions that I hated them. And instead of, in fact, I was just working on myself and it had nothing to do with them. And they expressed, we really care about you. We're here for you. We're so proud of you. Get after it. If you ever want to hang out or chat, I'm here. That then puts the ball in my court and gives me the permission that, okay, they're encouraging, they're supportive, they're accepting. I don't have to stress about that in the back of my mind. I can keep doing what I'm doing and I can make sure that I make time for these people that care about me. Right? So remind them how much you care and that you're there to support them if and how they need. But just even sharing that we care and that we're there. And again, this is for any spectrum. This is if somebody's completely withdrawn and is isolating and is having a hard time. But also just if you've noticed one of your friends or family members or whoever has just been acting a little bit differently. We always think it's something negative, but it could be something really, really great. And so not doing those assumptions again and sharing that you care. And then the last point that I have for you guys is to listen versus responding, especially if you're actually able to have a conversation with said person and you're able to have that back and forth. I encourage you to spend more time listening than responding, because if you're going there to ask those questions and you've set up this safe space and you're asking how you can support them, and then they're trying to communicate that to you, and you just feel this urge to cut them off or to respond or to just jump in or to share your own things in that moment, don't make it about you. That's the thing with this one. Listen versus responding means don't make it about you. You can make it relatable and you can validate, but so often we say, same, I've been feeling that way too. And it's that's great because we can find commonality. And again, this depends on your relationship with that person and the dynamic, and you will know what works best with this person. But we have to get better as a society to listen versus responding. Don't ask a question to then give a follow-up. Ask a question to hear and feel the answer. because that is where the truth lies. And there's no point of asking if you don't want to hear the answer. There's no point. There's literally no point of asking. So don't ask me how I'm feeling if you don't actually want to know, if I tell you that my answer is not just good. Don't open that door if you're not ready for that. So those are my 5 points for you guys on just ways that you can begin to support someone if you've noticed that they've shifted. And we obviously know that we all withdraw from things in our life. Like, are you still doing the same hobbies you were doing when you were younger? No. Are you still hanging out with all the same people you used to? No. We all withdraw from things and phase in and out of things in life. That is just how life goes. But if you're noticing someone in your life that you care about is maybe acting different or out of character, and you're not sure why, these are some great approaches that you can take. And I wish that even one person had given me that when I was on my journey to healing and was going to therapy and going home and reading books and watching videos and doing meditations and yoga and just really working on myself. I really wish that one person just didn't take it personally and instead just gave me that space and that safety and the capacity to just know that that's okay. And if that's what you're needing right now, we'll be here if and when you're ready to reach back out. And that is really all we need as humans, is that validation, that compassion, that sense of being seen, heard, believed, and just appreciated. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know today's episode was a little bit heavier, and like I said in the beginning, I want to switch from mental health talks and more funny and uplifting conversations. And of course, every podcast I want to be fun and I want to be, encouraging and insightful and educational. But I think that I also want to normalize having those hard conversations. And when I notice things, and when I notice things happen simultaneously and how it affects people, my brain goes, you should talk about that. And I always want to tie in my personal experience, because then I'm sharing from my heart and what I wish I had in those moments, but also how I can take what I'm saying and put that into practice of, if I have anyone in my life, am I doing those same things? And if I'm not, why? Because I know that those are the best approaches. So thank you guys so much for tuning into episode number 70 of Rewire to Inspire. I truly hope you guys all enjoy. I challenge you all right now to reach out to one person that you maybe haven't spoken to in a couple days, or someone you deeply care about, and just let them know that you're grateful for them. Let them know maybe something you love about them, maybe a fun memory you guys have together. Spreading just a little more normalized love and kindness, and just, elevating each other and celebrating each other. And I just think we can get that much further, that much more healed, that much more happy as a society and as a collective. So thank you guys so much. All the love. I look forward to chatting with you all next week. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at JessieBrown13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.